Welcome back to episode 5 of the Sports Talk ATL podcast. I am joined once again by Jake Gordon and Alex Lord. We've been gone for 2 weeks, but the last week have been very good for the Braves. Winners of 5 straight, back over 500, finally won 3 in a row. The vibes are feeling a little better. We're still 9 games back in the division, but it just doesn't feel as insurmountable now with the way the team's playing right now. A lot of good things going. The offense is rolling. Acuna, Riley, Swanson, Olson, Ozzie all seem to be turning it around. What are we feeling, guys? What are we feeling? Is this the start of, the 2022 Braves? Is this where the story begins, on this playoff run?
You said it earlier a couple weeks ago. This is the part of the schedule that's incredibly favorable for the Braves. This was going to be the time that they were going to make up those 9-ish games, and it was difficult for the Mets. They have a difficult stretch here. So it feels I don't want to say it, but Braves are back.
Yeah, Braves are
Yeah,
back. The
definitely.
only problem is the Mets keep winning. They've just. I mean, I got to give them credit, man. I keep waiting for them to just start metting it up, and they just don't. They went and had 4 games against the Dodgers. They lose the first 2. You're like, oh, this could be the chance where we really make some game. Then they go win the next 2, and then they win the first game out in San Diego. So got to give some credit to the Mets. I mean, they're 38-19. I mean, that's just good baseball.
Yeah, I mean, I've just really been happy to see Ronald. I mean, the power hasn't really been there for him, but he's just become an on-base machine, like an actual leadoff hitter. Like Ronald looks incredible.
Yeah, I think he has like a 410 on base percentage, 410 on base percentage so far this season. He's already stolen 10 bases, which I think he started 23 games this year. If you take that over the course of a 162 game season, obviously he's not going to play that. That's 70 stolen bases. Like, that's just ridiculous. I mean, the guy has just been an absolute freak when it comes to every aspect. This is why I say, like, someone's going to have to take the torch from Mike Trout eventually. And it could be Juan Soto. I love him. And there's a bunch of guys, Vlad Jr., a bunch of great young players, Fernando Tatis. But the way that Ronald can affect the game literally in every way, like defensively, with his legs, with his speed, with his power. I mean, the guy hasn't been hitting homers, and he's still just like easily the best player on the team. So, I mean, it's incredible, which was why I do think he will be the best player in baseball once, Mike Trout kind of dies down. If he ever does decline, the guy never seems like he's going to decline.
Acuna is also just outside of the actual tangible stuff he does on the field. He's just good for baseball in terms of excitement. Every time the guy's out there, he does something, that grasps the national attention. This past series, he did the silencer LeBron's, and then, in the interview after the game said that, he's going to give a little shout out to Ice Tray after the next probably home run. So, he's just good for baseball.
Yeah, also, we need to talk about Austin Riley, too, because he had a little short slump. And, of course, people were freaking out, saying, oh, last year was a fluke. No, he's back to being incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I did a little article on it, and not only has Riley been really good this year, probably over the course of the whole season, him and Swanson have easily been the best players by pretty much every metric. But if you go look at his baseball savant page and just the peripherals, like, he's better in every metric than he was last year. So, like, these numbers are like, he's only going to get better. He's hitting 373 with 6 homers over his last 14 games. That's not sustainable. But I would not be surprised at all if he ended the season hitting 300 with 40 bombs and just keeps getting better, because in every metric, he is better this year than he was last year. The numbers just like on the box score aren't quite there yet, but like regression, it's all going to come back and even out over the course of 162 games. This guy's a legit superstar. Everyone talks about Acuna, and I do think he is the best player on the team. Riley it's almost like 1A and 1B the way Riley's going.
Yeah, it's a long season, and regression is for sure in line. But I tend to agree. I'm biased. I
And
always
then
thought
1C,
Ozzie
Dansby
was going to be.
Swanson.
I was always a big I was always a big Ozzie fan. Even when Ronnie and Ozzie were coming up together, I always thought that Ozzie wouldn't be the better player, but I thought Ozzie would be that 1B. And he has turned it around, but I expected a lot more years ago from Ozzie, and it seems that Austin Riley is that guy.
Ozzie kind of is what he is at that point, but I mean, he plays second base. He's still one of the best second basemen in the league. So that's why I don't really get too tight about him, even when he doesn't play that well, because I know he will turn it around.
Yeah, he's having a slow start, but he's slowly starting to turn it around. The power has kind of faded over the last like month, 6 weeks or so. but eventually he's going to get hot and, hit 5 or 6 homers in the span of like 2 weeks. So at the end of the day, yeah, he is one of the best second basemen. And is he going to be an MVP caliber player? No, I don't think Ozzie will ever be an MVP candidate like Riley or Acuna or Freddie Freeman was, or Matt Olson can probably be. But is he going to give you 4 WAR every single season and have probably the most hits on the team? Yeah, and there's a ton of value in that, especially when he plays elite defense at second base. One guy that I wanted to talk about, though, outside of the big guys that seem to be turning it around, and I think a big part of the reason the Braves are turning it around is Michael Harris. I mean, the guy's come in, played lights out center field, held his own at the plate, had a few, I think over the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 games, he has, 6 hits, 7 hits, something like that.
He
3
has a
extra
5-game
base
hitting
knocks.
streak.
Yeah, so I mean, the guy is he looks the part. I know with rookies, guys come up and have a solid month and then just completely fall off. If that happens in this case, I don't think it's the end of the world. The Braves really just needed an outfielder, especially from the left side, that could play defense and get on base a little bit. And you kind of weather the storm, at least till Rosario or maybe Adam Duvall turns it around. They really desperately needed that. So if they only get a month or 2 of production out of Michael Harris, that's all they really need. But if somehow he turns out and can be the starting center fielder for the rest of the season, that's just icing on the cake. And now you got a real weapon there in the 9 hole.
Yeah, and it's hard to say, like, even if he does have that fall off, like we saw with like Travis Demeritte, it's hard to call that a failure because you just brought up a 21-year-old and he hit like he's been in the majors for 6 years for a month, and a lot of guys can't do that. And there's still plenty of potential there. So I love Harris. I'm glad to see him playing well. I really hope he keeps it up. But if he doesn't, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, it's a resounding success for a guy to skip AAA, come and do this, even if it is for a month. And that's all the Braves need. The Braves just needed this little buffer period to just get through. And he's been more than that. He's been more than just, a serviceable guy. He's played excellent defense. We all saw that incredible catch that he had, and that's just who he is. The Braves just needed contact and solid defense, and that's exactly what Michael Harris has given them.
Yeah, I was listening to a Baseball America podcast about the Braves farm system before the season started. And Michael Harris was obviously the talk of the podcast, being the Braves' top prospect. And the guy was like, what people don't realize is that this guy's defense, I know people are going to laugh at me for saying this. I'm reiterating what he's saying. He's like, I know people are going to be like, whoa, that's a big take. But like Michael Harris might be better defensively than Christian Pache. Like he's that good, and that's kind of what we've seen. I mean, his range
He has
out
the
there,
athleticism.
yeah,
He's fast enough.
his range out there has been unbelievable. He's been super impressive in the field. Anything he gives you offensively right now is icing on the cake, and right now it's been a lot. Whether it's sustainable, I don't know. One thing, Alex Anthopoulos, and I want to talk a lot about what he said on 680 The Fan, but one of the things he talked about when making that decision to call him up is like, at the end of the day, a lot of these guys get worried about whether what was I going to say? A lot of these guys get worried about whether coming to the majors too early and struggling will cause them to, spiral their career to spiral out of control. But he's like, at the end of the day, you're probably going to be who you are no matter what. And I think that's so true. Like if these guys can't handle a little bit of failure at the top level, if you can't get caught up at 21 and realize, hey, this is going to be hard. Like this is a big step. I fail. And, you can't rebound from that. You're probably never going to make it in the first place. So I think that was a good point by him. And Harris strikes me as a guy who no matter what, in the long term, he's going to pan out. I mean, what he's done is really impressive. And, I've never been more confident, whether he falls off a little this year or not, that he's going to be a future piece of this team.
Yeah, he seems pretty like even keeled in his interviews when they interview him. He seems like a very like chill guy, doesn't seem to be too emotional about it. He's just out there playing good ball.
Yeah, I just thought of this, that you said that. What does this say about Drew Waters? That Michael Harris was called up over him, and not necessarily that Drew, Drew was hurt for the beginning of the season. He didn't have a good season last year. He started off this year pretty decently, and he, was probably didn't play enough games for Anthopoulos to feel comfortable this year. But still, what does that say about him?
I don't think it says much. I can pretty much tell you exactly why they went with Michael Harris over Drew Waters. Even if Waters might have been a little bit better at this point in their development, the reason they did is one, defensively, they needed outfield defense. They needed a guy who could play center field. And 2, the contact back. Waters strikes out way too much. The 2 things the Braves were looking for were those 2 things. Michael Harris just that's what they knew they could get out of him, even though he hadn't played in AAA. Waters, he's not as good defensively as Michael Harris, and he strikes out way too much. So I think it really was that simple of a decision. And obviously Waters has been on the IL battling injuries for most of this season. So I'm still not like down on Waters. But at the same time, you look at the outfield moving forward. If Michael Harris is going to be your starting center fielder, Ronald Acuna is going to be your starting right fielder. You still have Ozuna for the next 2 years. You do have to start wondering where he slots in. It's kind of, I'm not going to say it's sink or swim. He's still got some time. He's still a young kid, but yeah, I mean, it's getting to the point where you could see a guy like Drew Waters be moved, especially because the one thing the Braves do have in their farm system is outfield depth, even behind, guys like Waters. So if there does, come a trade at the trade deadline, a Waters could interest a lot of teams. So it's definitely something to look out for. I don't know what his place is moving forward, but I'm not too down on him. I just think Harris fit what the Braves needed at the time, and that's why they went with him.
Yeah, good point.
Let's talk about two guys in the rotation that have just been absolutely balling out. Max Fried, Kyle Wright. Maybe one of the best 1-2 punches that nobody talks about. I think Max Fried has a legitimate chance of being in the Cy Young conversation, and Kyle Wright's actually been statistically a little bit better. I'm super impressed with what Wright is. I know me and Jake have been on this bandwagon since the beginning of the season, but I'm almost more impressed with just how Max Fried seemingly gets better every season. I mean, he's throwing 98 now. Like his velocity's up. He's throwing like high 80s split or sliders. He's got a 5-pitch mix. He's really working that changeup this year, which he hasn't done in the past. It's really impressive, and it's just a testament to how hard that guy works every year to just get a little bit better.
Yeah, Max is another guy at first. We talk about guys coming up and not having a ton of success. Like Matt, the start to his career was a little shaky, and he completely turned it around, kept working. And he has that dog attitude. We saw him get his ankle stepped on in the World Series and come back out and throw, 5 more shutout innings. We've seen him, face some of the toughest lineups of baseball and just absolutely sit him down. Like he has that mentality, and I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, you nailed it. He's a bulldog. I love watching him pitch. It almost feels, and I say this, and I'll keep saying it, it feels like he needs to get, punched in the face or his ankle stepped on for him to really get into the game. And obviously that's an overstatement. He's ready from the go. But he is just that kind of competitor where he gets punched in the mouth and he's like, there's no flight. It's all fight. And I love watching him pitch because in the playoffs, things are going to go wrong. And, pitchers are probably, some are shaky, some aren't, but he's not. Something bad happens. He doesn't care. He just puts his head down and he just works. I love watching Max pitch.
I think the best thing about watching Max pitch is nothing comes easy for opponents. Whether a guy gets on third, let's say they get a leadoff triple, a lot of people almost be like, oh, that guy's going to get in. Max is like, no, like we're going to figure out how to get 3 outs with that guy from third getting in. We saw him do it against the Reds back in the 2020 playoffs several times where they got leadoff doubles and leadoff triples and had runners on thirds with nobody outs, and he kept getting out of it. And it's the same thing when, let's say he has a bad outing. Let's say through 5 innings, he's given up 4 runs. Well, he's going to figure out how to make it through 7 innings. It's like nothing comes easy. And he's one of those pitchers where I know wins don't matter. Like, no, everyone's like, they basically tossed out the win stat. Like, it doesn't matter for starting pitchers these days. But it just always seems like Max Fried is like in the top 5 in wins. And there's like a reason for that. Like, no matter what, the guy's always in the game. He's just such a competitor. And I think wins don't matter in a lot of ways. But with a guy like Max Fried, I definitely think that's a very telling stat.
Yeah, I love Max. I mean, he's got. I mean, I remember back when him and Soroka were coming up. Everybody was talking about Soroka. Obviously, he had that incredible rookie season, so it was hard to deny the prospect of him being the ace of this rotation in the future. But Max has made a lot of people forget about him. I just can't.
Well, I think back-to-back Achilles injuries makes a lot of people kind of forget about you, unfortunately. But hey, I think Soroka will be back this year. All the reports have been good on that. I've been really impressed with what I've seen from Spencer Strider in his first 2 starts of the year. You still have Ian Anderson and Charlie Morton. I still think this is one of the best rotations in baseball. I think they're just so deep and have so many high-powered arms. And when you have Kyle Wright and Max Fried and hopefully Charlie Morton at the top of it, there's just not much many better in any league. Doesn't matter, national, American. So I think by the end of the season, this group's going to get rolling, and it's going to be scary, especially if the offense hits like they have been over the last couple of weeks.
But there are some negatives, aren't there? Your favorite player, Will Smith, how's he doing?
Yeah, I think it's time, and I want to ask you guys, Adam Duvall and Will Smith. I mean, is it not time to start seriously reconsidering their roles? Like, how often should Adam Duvall be? I know he had like 2 hits yesterday, so maybe it's on Sunday, but how often should he be playing? There's no way he should be playing more than 3 times a week.
With Harris up and giving you that defense that, there, and it's hard to even argue with defense. Duvall is a good defensive outfielder, but his bat was so bad that it's even hard to argue with, him being in the lineup with the defense. I mean, I will say I think it's a little early. I was saying during that game, maybe Duvall's, caught some fire. He's caught something. I think it's a little too early to yank him, that's for sure. But you can't make the argument anymore for defense with Michael Harris up and making contact like he is. That's for sure.
I just don't think Adam Duvall should ever be getting, not ever, but most of those starts. I mean, you got to figure out how to get William Contreras in there. I'm not saying you completely bench him, because if you can get Duvall hot, it's a total weapon. But I just think both of these guys, Will Smith, Will Smith, we know who the fuck Will Smith is. I don't care. I get his World Series run. That was sick. I'm happy for him. It worked out. But let's not ignore what he's been for the rest of the 3 years he's been with the Braves, which is a below average reliever. A below average reliever. He's been awful this year. I think he has negative .07 WAR. How many times are you going to stick him in the 8th inning? I mean, why is AJ Minter should be setting up every game that he's pitchable? There's no reason for Will Smith to be pitching in the 8th inning.
Snickers got a hard on for him or something, because I don't understand it either.
I would rather see Jackson Stevens. I mean, these aren't jokes. This isn't a joke. Every time Will Smith comes into the game, I mean, his last, I think 14 appearances, he has a 7 ERA. This guy has a 6 FIP on the season. He has a 5 FIP over 3 seasons with the Braves. He's just not good. He hasn't been good. He had one. So are we going to just be oh yeah, but he had that run in October. Let's just keep blowing fucking games. Let's just keep doing it. But because remember what he did last October? Are we stuck in the past? I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I think Snitch just got a hard on for him or something.
And you know what? Maybe I'll look like an idiot. Maybe Will Smith will turn this around. But I've seen 3 years of this to say I'm pretty confident he's not going to turn it around. I can confidently start ragging on him, because this is his last year in Atlanta. I guarantee you he's not here next year. So I'm going to rag on him until he's out of town, or we stop using him. One of the two.
Or he turns it around.
Well, I hopefully if Matson can come back, we really don't have to see him in high leverage situations. See, I wouldn't mind him if he was pitching, in the 5th or 6th inning, shit like that. But we keep throwing him out there in the 8th in 1-run games and expecting to win games. So I mean, it's just frustrating. Will Smith's been doing this for 3 years. He's been literally making me want to curse out everybody on Twitter for 3 years, and it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop this year either. Alex Anthopoulos the other day on 680 The Fan talked about the potential for early season trades. He's kind of mentioned this before, and I've said this many times. It's just unlikely. He's made calls, but there's just so few teams that are really ready to pull the trigger on trades and give up on the season, especially with expanded playoffs. And even the ones that are, the asking price is going to be so high, because they have all the leverage right now. And when it gets closer to the trade deadline, those prices will come down. So it still seems highly unlikely that a trade happens, within the next month. But he did say the Braves could be looking for maybe a starting pitcher if Spencer Strider struggles, right-handed bullpen help, left-handed bat, particularly in the outfield. But it was definitely a don't expect anything soon kind of situation.
It's hard to project where the team will be in 6 weeks, so it's hard to make a trade, so soon. Rosario's coming back, probably not till the All-Star break or after. Who knows if Duval maybe catches a little bit of fire? I'm hopeful. What if Michael Harris is here to stay? So there's so many unknowns. It's difficult to project things like that so far out.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much where I'm at too. I just don't see any way that a trade happens within the next month. But hey, it's fun to talk about. It gets the people going on Twitter, so I'm here to talk about it. All right, so we got a couple random questions of the week. I like both of these. I think we saw one on TikTok. One was going around the Twitter sphere. Can you get a hit over basically 700 plate appearances, 162 games? Let's say you get up 4 times a game. Can you get a single hit in a major league season? I know my answer. Jake, I'll start with you. What do you think?
I think the answer is yes. All right, look, you got to hear me out too. Somebody brought up a good point. This is what sold me. Someone said over 162 games, you think about it, every team faces a position player probably at least once or twice. And those guys are out there throwing like 70, 75. Like that's what I saw in high school. And I feel like if over the course of a season, if you have to go up there and like, let's say there's not like a mental aspect, like people on the internet aren't like, dude, like, like you're the fucking worst, like shit like that. Like if you go up there and you sit there and you consistently see like 99, 99, 99, and all of a sudden some guy comes up and starts throwing 70, you got a chance. And also it was like, oh, you have to try and you get $20 million. There's no risk if you lose. So yeah, of course.
Well, I just think you would do it. Like, all right, so here's my thing. Like, if I am sitting there and I'm practicing with the team, like from spring training on, like I'm getting some ABs and spring training, like maybe in the first like 3 months, I'm completely fucking hopeless. I'm hopeless. Like I can't. There's no chance of me touching this ball. But like by game like 90, like I've been practicing. Like I've been hitting off machines that are throwing 95. Like eventually, I'm gonna make.
You're gonna run into one eventually.
I'm gonna luck into a little bit of contact and just bloop one out there. Like
you're gonna run into one eventually.
Yes, like it's like I'm not like a 7-year-old. Like I played like high school baseball. Like if I have 700 plate appearances and I'm practicing with the team and I'm actively trying to play baseball like for a living, even if I have like negative 15 WAR out there, I just have to run into one. I just have to run into one. I mean, what if I just get lucky and I just nub one like into no man's land and I just run to first base?
Just one that rolls down the third baseline while they wait for it to go foul and it never goes foul.
Yeah, like whatever. There's got to be like I'm saying like I'm gonna look ridiculous the whole time up there, but I just have a feeling if I stand in there and I just really try to get a hit, like
700, I really think you can do it one time.
I think I wouldn't get contact until after the All-Star break, like any sort of contact.
Yeah, but that's that's also part of it. Like you're now 90 games into the season. You've now seen 400.
You know what it looks like.
Yeah, you know what this is. You know what is coming. Like
I would feel hopeless.
The little jitters where like the 98 mile per hour is starting at your hip and going to the middle. Like you've kind of gotten over that a little. You're like, all right, this thing's not going to hit me. It may take 100 games, but like those final 60, like watch out for me. I could get hot.
You're like that Mr. 3000, that movie with Bernie Mac, who he just comes back and he's trying to get one last hit to get the record.
That's kind of like what the situation would be like. I feel like you could get a hit.
And that's the thing is we're not saying like, oh, I blast a home run. No, I'm talking about I would be the luckiest person alive and nub one, like hit one like over the shortstop's head.
Like my batting average would be .001, but like it's still like .001 and not .000. Like you just have to get. I just think you could. I think people like give Major League, and I'm the first person to say Major League pitching is unbelievable, especially today. It just keeps getting crazier and crazier, and I know for the first 100 at bats, I would be like, holy crap, like what the hell is this? But I just think you're talking about just odds here, just like luck. Like
seriously.
Like just like literally stick your bat out there and hope it just hits it. Like I just think like you probably are going to run into one in 700 at bats. I could be wrong though.
I feel like I don't know. Obviously, it takes some skill, but I feel like at a certain point, like once you see 98 a couple times, it's not going to look as fast as it used to. I mean, it's still going to be.
Well, and also
make it easier.
That is hilarious to say.
Like, I mean, it doesn't make it easier. It doesn't make it easier to hit, but it doesn't look as fast. Like you get used to it.
I think the positional player thing was.
You're also going to be. you're also going to be playing like, dude, you're going to have spring training. You're going to have like, you're going to have like a practice. Like you're going to be like seeing 98 like before like the game, Like it's not
Like
like you're
think
going to have
about it.
batting simulations. Like it's not like
You
you're
want
not
me
going to
to Will
just
Smith
walk
one
up and
game?
it's like, oh, here's 100 miles per hour for the first time you've ever seen it. No, there's got to be like I'm part of the team. Like I'm out there practicing with the boys.
We should go to a batting cage and get a machine out there throwing that 95 and see
I would
what we
love
can
that.
do.
I would actually love that. We should
I would
definitely
love
do
it.
that.
I would love it, and we should video it. We should
Yeah,
put
we
it on
should.
YouTube.
That'd be great
like,
content.
Yeah, and then when I hit a literal fucking 400-foot bomb off that little machine, you're gonna be like, yeah.
But no,
$20 million.
Back to the position player thing. You think about like Anthony Rizzo last year. Like he was messing around throwing like 60 miles an hour.
He struck out Freeman.
He wouldn't have struck me out. That's all I'm saying.
He wouldn't have struck out Matt Olson out.
Yeah,
no way.
That's exactly right.
No chance. So we have another question. Would you take $20 million if the pitcher, you have to sit up there for 162 games, but every time the pitcher throws at you?
Yes. This one's even easier than the first one. So
I think this is an easy one too. Like just literally fucking belt me. I mean, I hope you don't hit me in the face. Like can that be part of the rule? Like you're not going to aim at my head?
Here's the thing. There were multiple great points. And I'm going to steal a lot of these from the comment section because this is a TikTok, but they're great points. Number one, you're going to have a 1,000 on base percentage and you will win MVP, which is actually insane.
And you get 20 mil.
Exactly. And then somebody was like, you can make more off endorsements. Like think about like Evo Shield. Like they would want to sign you to get like all your protective gear and stuff. And somebody's like, and nobody said I can't wear like a Kevlar vest up to bat. So you want to hit me in the ribs, then like I got to think of body armor on. Like I'll be okay. And they were like, yeah, like I'll just wear padding on literally everything. Like there's no
I mean, like also if I know I'm getting hit, like I feel like I'll be more protected. Like even if I'm not wearing anything, like I'll make sure it doesn't hit me in like the hand, Like I'll turn I'll just turn away.
I'll wear oven mitts. Like you can't hit me on the hand. As long as there's a no headshot rule, because I feel like that is kind of messed up.
Yeah, like if you're just throwing 100-mile-per-hour fastballs at my head, like you could kill me.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think if there's a no headshot rule, I think this is easy. I think it's easier than the first one.
Yeah, I agree. Y'all are talking about high school baseball, and that's what makes you guys confident about getting a hit. But I played high school lacrosse, and I've been hit plenty of times by 100-mile-an-hour shots, and sure, it hurts. $20 million? You could take a poop on my face for $20 million. $20 million? Are you kidding me? If anybody's even contemplating this, I mean, bigger questions need to be asked.
MVP. You're gonna set the all-time record for on base percentage.
Now, I do want to set the record straight. I do not think because I played high school baseball, I can get a hit in the MLB.
You said that.
Yeah. We did not say that.
No. I'm just saying it's not like I've never swung a bat before in my life.
That's what we were saying. Exactly.
It's not like I'm up there like with no idea what I'm doing. That was what I was saying. Not like there's no correlation between me playing high school. I'm just saying I can swing a bat. Like I know how to swing the bat.
Alex is definitely gonna clip that. And be like,
oh yeah, for sure. There's nothing I would do. There's nothing I wouldn't do for $20 million. $20 million? Are you kidding me? I would take it, with the risk of getting it to the head. I mean, I would hopefully,
I would just wear like one of those little league helmets with the cage that they used to make you wear.
Yeah.
Like when you had to wear the cage.
Yeah. I don't even think that's a question.
Yes. The cages were sick, dude. Like I was wearing those like way older than everyone else. I was like, dude, don't hit me in the face.
But yeah, no, I mean, like I said, you'll be in the record books too. You have Barry Bonds beat for all time on base percentage.
Jake Gordon, Barry Bonds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Guess who never used steroids? Neither of us.
Jake Gordon.
Which is a record they say could never be broken, but in this scenario, it would be broken.
Absolutely.
With flying colors. Moving on to the NBA Finals, we got a 1-1 series. Feels like a series that's going 7. Definitely has that feeling to me. Jake, I know you got a futures bet on the Warriors. How are you feeling about this going into Game 3?
I don't know, but see, I've been the futures bet maestro. I don't understand how I've gone on this streak, especially because I can't hit a normal bet to save my life. But futures, for some reason, I just got them on lock. I mean, we saw the third quarter Warriors that we saw from a few years ago just come out and just absolutely blow the doors off you in the third quarter. I mean, the Celtics did that to the Warriors in the fourth quarter of Game 1, and I think Game 3 is going to be the most important because if Boston wins at home, that's huge. But if the Warriors when in Boston in Game 3, they have all the momentum, and I think that's even bigger, especially when you talk about a team that has finals experience.
Yeah, I want to talk about something different. Jason Tatum and the Kobe thing is getting annoying. It is
Yeah, it
getting
is. It's
annoying.
really weird. It's really weird.
He's played it out.
I don't know if he's being serious or if he's trolling us. Because if he's trolling us,
I
that would
think
be
he might be
hilarious.
trolling at this point.
It
That's
seems
funny.
like he's trying to like profit off of it at this point. It's his Instagram picture. Maybe he is trolling. I don't know, but it's getting.
I don't think he is.
I think the first one, the text was like genuine, and everybody's like, "Oh, dude, this is weird." And then okay, so now he's like leaning into it and trying to be funny.
But it was even before
so,
that. He did the armband, then the text, and then the practice outfit. I don't know if that was real. You know, the whole team could have been wearing that stuff. But then he changed his Instagram picture of his head leaning back on the basketball. It's played out. It's played out, dude. I mean, and he's not playing that good. So like that makes it all worse. You're not balling out. You're not. It's not.
Yeah,
the
is
Celtics
Jaylen
aren't
Brown's
losing
team, baby.
because of him. They aren't losing because of him. But it's played out. It's played out.
This is Jaylen Brown's team. Brown's team, baby. Shout out Wheeler High School.
It sucks because I hate the Celtics, and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are probably 2 of my 5 favorite players. I love those guys.
Yeah,
that's fair.
I think this series is going back to Golden State 2-2. I would give the edge to Boston in Game 3, just simply getting back home, coming off a loss. I definitely think they're going to be the motivated team, but I think this series goes back 2-2. I think they'll split. I think Game 5 is going to be a toss-up. And whoever wins that Game 6, I think Game 6, if Boston's down, you got to give them a huge edge in that one, and then anything can happen in Game 7. But this series, to me, just like the Miami Boston series, just screams a series that's going 7 games. They just seem too close. On any given night, any team could win based on who gets hot. That Game 1, fourth quarter, the way the Celtics locked down the Warriors and then just absolutely crushed them by like 40 points over the last 15 minutes. That was unbelievable. And then you look at Game 2, the third quarter, the Warriors just looked like they couldn't miss. So I think just 2 very even teams that play good defense, both can score in bunches, great shooting, great coaches. It just seems
this
like
is something else I
to
want to talk about. I think it is kind of messed up. I didn't say anything about this the other night because I had his props on Prize Picks. Make sure you use code KentCarJake on Prize Picks. But Draymond, I think, purposely gets his first tech within the first few minutes because he knows they won't kick him out of the game. And he is just going to sit there and do whatever he can get away with.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I was just going to bring it up if nobody else did. I can't stand when officials – you cannot ref a game. And Van Gundy was talking about how he loves it. This is what separates, good refs from excellent refs. And I get it. If it was my team, I would obviously want to benefit from it. But if it wasn't my team, if I was a Boston fan, I would be irate. That's a double tech every day of the week. Draymond should have been out of there. Jaylen should have had his first tech and his third or fourth foul. I mean, why are we, trying to change? It's not even like they're changing the game, but it feels just phony. It feels phony.
It's
it
such
feels
a
like
double-edged sword.
It feels like the B-dubs, somebody's in the back going, nope, we got to keep going. We got to keep going. It feels phony. I do not like it at all.
It's such a double-edged sword, though, because I don't want Draymond thrown out. Like, I want everybody, but I mean, if he's doing it like to provoke somebody, then he deserves to be thrown out for it. But I don't want him thrown out. I think like he's using that obviously, clearly, and I don't think they'll let it fly next game. I think if he tries it again next game, they'll throw him out.
I absolutely love Draymond, dude.
He said
like,
he came.
I used to hate him, and I kind of.
I know it's just like it's gotten so hilarious. Like just like how big of a troll and how big of an antagonizer he is. He's like a better Pat Bev. Like that's literally what he is. Like and
people
it works,
don't. A lot of people don't get Draymond is like so like his basketball IQ is like probably top 5 in the league. When you hear like NBA players, they'll ask him like who's the smartest player in the league. They always mention Draymond. I mean, and I want him in the game, but I do feel like the next game if he tries that again, if he gets attacked within like the first 5 minutes and then he starts going on with his antics, they will throw him out this time. They're not going to let him. They're not going to.
I definitely think they're going to have to do something, especially after what happened last game.
I mean, he came out after the game and was like, "I earned this. I've been a dickhead my whole career, and I've earned this." But he basically was like, "They officiate me differently than they officiate, maybe an Al Horford or somebody who's a quieter player," and that is such bullshit to me. I mean, I do enjoy Draymond Green. I enjoy watching him play, but I cannot stand the wishy-washy officiating. I cannot stand that.
Definitely. Shout out
Well,
to Al
let's
Horford for doing absolutely nothing in game 2, by the way.
yeah, but he
Yeah.
dominated game one.
I don't
Let's
think he scored.
I don't think he shot. Did he? Did
I
he
don't think he
shoot?
did it. No, I had him over 1.5 threes, and he didn't take one. I know that for a fact. I think he maybe shot twice, and I think he had no points and 2 rebounds or something like that.
His sister was out on full force in the Bird app, telling everybody,
Anna Horford has been causing trouble on the Bird app since we started the
Since
website back in
yeah,
2015.
exactly.
Like she really has, bro. She's low key, and it's funny because she is the sister of one of like the mildest, quietest human beings like ever, and like she is out there always starting shit on Twitter.
she's
Doing
a
the fuck
villain,
Mary Kill
dude.
with his teammates was so insane, by the way.
She's a villain, dude. She is a villain.
She's a menace, bro. Like poor Al. Let's get into some NBA like hot stove. We got some rumors. The Portland Trailblazers are interested in trading for John Collins. I've said many times, I don't know on this podcast or on YouTube videos in the past, I do think John Collins is likely to be moved. It just makes the most sense. He's the most tradable asset that the Hawks have. He's who people are going to be interested in. We can get money off the books by clearing it. I don't think when you saw John Collins, his absence in the playoffs. I don't think there was too much of a difference between just having Capella out there and having John Collins out there, which is why I do think, we could see him moved. I don't think it's 100% by any means, but I think you're going to have a lot of teams interested. And like we all know, the Hawks are going to make big changes this offseason.
Yeah, I actually saw this. Speaking of Portland, somebody posted this. It was, I think it may have been Peachtree Hoops or whatever. It was Josh Hart, a first-round pick, and Anthony Simons for John Collins.
I would do it.
I don't know if you remember this too, but back like in the 2018 draft, the pick that became Kevin Huerter, I wanted Anthony Simons with that pick. I don't remember who I had us taken with 3, but it definitely wasn't Trey. It was probably Jared Jackson.
I would do that. Anthony Simons has a chance to be really good.
He's also 22. Like when they draft, he was like 18 when they drafted him. He was the youngest player in that draft because I remember I did like a whole thing on Anthony Simons. I actually really like him. Josh Hart is what he is, but that Blazers first round
Josh
pick,
Hart's underrated though.
Yeah, I mean,
I think he's underrated. And then you get a
and you think about that first round pick, the Blazers could be really bad. Like they missed the playoffs this year.
Yeah,
like that could be.
I think they have the
that could be a
7th
really
pick
high
this
draft
year.
pick.
I think they have the 7th.
I don't know if
Portland.
Yeah,
there's no way they would trade the 7th pick this year, but like maybe if it was a future pick, but that future pick could be really good.
Oh yeah, no, that I kind of assumed it would have been a future. I think it was 2023, but yeah, no,
I love
I don't
JC.
know if Portland
I
would
just
do that,
don't
but
think I don't like I don't want to pay him. And free, I don't want to pay him. I mean, you're buying high on him too, and that's not to say that he can't continue to ascend. He is a great player. He's a great prospect of somebody who could turn into a really nice piece. But you're buying high on him, and that's never a good business strategy. I mean, the chances that he continually improves are 50-50 maybe. I mean, he is 22. I just don't like the idea of trading JC. I mean, JC's a number 3 option on a championship caliber roster. I mean, straight up. And he might not be the 2 that everybody in Atlanta thinks that he is. Everybody in Atlanta who's dick riding JC needs to stop. I mean, he's a great player. He's versatile. He gives any team that championship quality player. He's willing to do anything the coach asks for him, offense or defense. He's constantly motivating his teammates, motivating himself. He's a positive presence in a locker room. And that's, that shouldn't be understated. But still, I do not like the trade. I mean, you shouldn't just trade to change something up. You should, make a trade to get better. And I don't think anything Portland has to offer is going to move the needle. Josh Hart's a great good perimeter defender. But I'm uneasy about all of that.
Yeah, see, I think Anthony Simons has all-star potential. So I disagree with you there. I think
That's the
I think
point.
there's.
That if you believe that, then I don't see a problem with the trade. I don't. That's
I mean, the guy averaged 17 points a game this year and shot over 40% from three. The Hawks don't
Here's
have
my
that.
thing too. Simons and Hart would be good pieces, and then you talk about a first round pick, and you could still have the assets to make a big move for like an actual star, and then you have
Yeah,
two
I mean,
better pieces.
you're not handcuffing yourself to any future moves, but I think Simons has a chance to really be an explosive piece that the Hawks need. I mean, you talk about a guy who can handle the ball, who can score on his own. Something the Hawks just haven't had with Trae Young, outside of Bogey when he's healthy. But I got Bogey's when has he been healthy a whole season? It just hasn't happened. So I'm not saying like, oh, this is the best trade ever. I would love it, but Hart, Simons, a first round pick, a future first round pick. Like, if the Hawks were looking to move Collins, I think that's a pretty fair deal.
Yeah, I saw Mark Stein said, JC for Jeremy Grant straight up, and I threw up in my mouth. I mean, that is disgusting. Or a Christian Wood-esque player, and that is just that's
An everybody loses trade.
Yeah, it really is.
I don't. The only reason that makes any sense for the Hawks is because I think Jeremy Grant's contract expires at the end of next year, and the Collins still has 4 years left. So that would basically be a salary dump, just trying to get rid of the 4 years left of Collins, which doesn't make any sense to me because while I don't
He's not
love,
a negative asset.
it's like, I mean, $25 million for John Collins in today's NBA is very standard. I mean, that's a pretty good contract. I think that's a good deal. So I don't think you're just salary dumping him. I do like the idea of somehow getting a Jeremy Grant. I just don't know how I feel about Jeremy Grant because of how much money he's getting paid. But getting a 3-and-D player like Jeremy Grant is something that I'm very interested in. I don't see us getting Jeremy Grant. We've been linked to him a few times, and I just feel like that's more smoke than there's fire there.
He's a good fit. I mean, he's a good defender and he can score. He can defend a lot of positions, but I don't think you can have him and Collins at the same time.
Yeah, and I just don't see.
Especially because Grant makes $20 million a year.
Grant and Collins straight up just doesn't. I don't know. I don't think that one of the bad news we heard over the last week is the Jazz unlikely to move on from Donovan Mitchell. I don't really think that's too much of news, though. I pretty much could have told you that. I know they were trying to decide between Gobert or Mitchell, but come on, is that really a decision? Like you're not trading away Donovan Mitchell. That's I mean guards win in this league. It's been that way for the last 10 years. And then DeAndre Ayton likely to play elsewhere next season, which not a huge surprise. But I don't.
We
really
talked
see
about
the
that
Hawks.
earlier.
Yeah, I don't see
No
the Hawks
thanks.
too interested. Let's talk about this list of the week that we have. Where is it? On DeAndre Hunter. Do we have it? Yeah.
Yeah, it should be in our text thread.
Yeah. So we have a list of the defenders that guarded the hardest players in the NBA and the easiest players. So basically the matchup difficulty. And number one this season was DeAndre Hunter. So DeAndre Hunter got some flack for not being as good a defender as, perhaps we all wanted to him. But when you look at it, he was guarding literally the hardest players in the NBA every night, which I think tells you what the Hawks think about his defensive ability. Even if, if you look at some advanced statistics, they don't love him. It's like, yeah, but the Hawks are still willing to put him out there against the other team's number one guy every night. And, he does a pretty good job. So I don't know what that means for DeAndre Hunter's future, but it should make you feel a little bit better about his defense moving forward. And what
I
the
will
team thinks
say,
about it.
iron sharpens iron, but I'm looking at this list. Dylan Brooks is second. Herb Jones, who I wanted in the draft, was 4. Lou Dort is at 6. Matisse Thybulle is at 7. There's probably not a massive difference. They don't have the actual numbers. I don't know how they quantify it, but I'm sure those guys aren't too far behind. And they're still really top-notch defenders. But iron sharpens iron. Those guys have some, some of them have a little more experience than he does. Herb Jones was drafted last year. He's probably older than Hunter is. Well, I don't know. Hunter was a senior, so they're probably about the same age, but that's not the point. At some point, you think there's going to be a little bit of a step forward if he keeps playing this tough competition, but this is going to be a big year next year because if he gives us what he gave us this year, next year, I'm done.
Well, I don't think he's up for extension this offseason, and I think they're either going to have to extend him I mean, they could do the same thing they did with Collins, where they let it play its course, but I could easily see him being involved in a trade as well, especially
Yeah.
if they decide they don't want to extend him. He's going to be another one of those pieces outside of Collins. I would say he's probably the most valuable trade chip the Hawks have. It would be him or Herter. I would probably go Hunter though over Herter personally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was definitely one of the people who was outspoken about his defense taking a step back this year. Just in terms of projectability, I mean, his first 2 years, he was excellent. One of the Hawks' best defenders, if not the best defender. And then when Clint came, Clint was probably the best. But this is encouraging, and it, makes me swallow whatever I said, to a certain extent. It should make Hawks fans feel a little bit better. Again, I mean, I watched the games, and he was, there were moments where I was like, what is he doing out there? I'm with you, Jake. I think what I would like is just for this season to run its course, and let's just, revisit this after the season instead of, making a premature decision, whether it be trade him or extend him. For JC, it was a little different. You kind of knew what you had, and, it seemed like he just wanted more money. I don't think that's the case with DeAndre Hunter. I think there's a lot of unknowns. Who knows what he's asking for price wise? He might not even be pushing as hard as, some people might allude that for.
Well, Kirshner said 4 for 60 or 4 to 50 for 60, or that's what league executives were saying he was worth. And I said, if that is what he gets offered, less than $15 million a year, the Hawks will be extending him. That no problem at all. Even after a year where I thought he looked questionable more often than not, for $15 million a year in this NBA, I mean, that's pennies. I mean, that's like Pat Bev money. I mean, seriously, like Pat Bev, I think makes like 10 or 11 mil. Like, if you're telling me we
Pat
could
Bev getting 2 shout outs on the Sports Talk ATL podcast this week.
Yeah. I mean, shit. I mean,
going back to this list,
and Kent Bazemore got 4 for 70, guys. Like, and that was like 10 years ago.
Going back to this list, I would do horrible things to have Lou Dort on this team. He would just be the perfect player.
I mean, I just think that's got to be a huge focal point of this offseason is finding guys like that. I think the Hawks need to add 2 guys like that, where just all they do is play defense. One bench guy.
I'm never gonna shut up. I'm never gonna shut up about saying Herb Jones should have been our 2nd round pick, man. I mean, I like Sharif Cooper. He probably shouldn't have fallen that far, and I think he's going to be good. But
that's another thing we got to think.
When so many young pieces. What are we going to do?
When you talk about John Collins getting moved, is another aspect of that is, what do the Hawks think about Jalen Johnson? Like, if you think
I was having this conversation earlier,
if he can be a starting caliber player, then you kind of have to move John Collins, right? Because
we were talking about this earlier with Jeremy Grant. You talk about Jeremy Grant's contract being up after next season. Okay, well, that's fine. But if you move John Collins in a different transaction and get Jeremy Grant, play him for a year, and then you bring in Jalen Johnson to start, I don't think there's a problem with that. I think it just depends on what you give up, really.
Yeah. I mean, it's gonna be a crazy offseason. I mean, there's gonna be so many rumors over the next, especially leading up to the draft. I mean, I think we have 16 days or something, 15, 16 days to the draft. I'm sure the Hawks will be mentioning a ton of rumors like draft day, trades, all kinds of shit. And who knows? I really don't know what to expect, but it should be exciting.
Yeah, speaking of
I
the
wish
draft,
that Hornets pick conveyed.
Yeah, speaking of the draft, I mean, it's about time to move away from, best player available, which Slink has been outspoken about, and go to just as close to pro ready as you can get. Who can give you immediate contributions, like right away? And maybe Nate won't play him, maybe he will, who knows? But it's time to stop, with this. Jalen Johnson playing the least amount of minutes in Hawks history as a rookie. I mean, what the hell? What the hell?
That's why I said Io DeSumo and Herb Jones. Both of those guys were, seniors coming out of both fantastic college seniors, and they both were incredible as rookies. That's kind of what I thought they should have done last year.
I would love to see. I know this is. I don't watch a ton of college basketball, so I don't even know half these prospects. But I watched LSU basketball, and Tari Eason would be a perfect fit in Atlanta. Absolutely perfect. He's probably the best perimeter defender in the draft. He's great in the pick and roll. He's got to work a little bit on his shot, but he has a good shot. It's not like it's broken.
And he's not afraid to shoot. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
I
I
think
like
he would
Dyson
be.
Daniels for the same reason. Dyson Daniels has played a year in G League, 6'7" forward though, really long arms, strong
Yeah,
defender. Yeah,
I've
guys
done
like
some
that
stuff.
though. I mean, like it's the same blueprint. Like we're talking about the same thing here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, give me a guy who can fucking defend the perimeter and figure out the rest of his game, and I think the Hawks will be okay. That wraps it up for the fifth episode of the Sports Talk ATL podcast. We will be back next